Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our reaction and review for Shrinking Season 1, Episode 5, Woof. You ever just said woof after somebody talks? As it's just sort of a release?
100 times a day. That is my word. That's why when I saw this and I saw him do that, I was like, oh my goodness. You know what? This show hits so many things that I do that I'm just like, oh, like, how are you looking into my soul like this? How dare you call me out with my blue water jug and woof?
I've said woof occasionally. Not as much apparently as Paul does, but where it's like everybody just kind of knows that he says it. But
Yeah.
this episode, I think, is one of those that's really all about sort of setting the stage for a lot of big stuff coming up. Like, we do get some revelations, like, we do understand a little bit more of why Sean is the way that he is.
Yep, and we also are gonna have a little bit of a beef with how that all came out and not like the original beef going on over at the Bear. Like, why was it Paul and not Jimmy that got that out of him? I felt a little bit robbed out of that, and I kind of feel like the show made a bit of a mistake with that. But
Well,
that's just me. We're gonna get more into that.
yes, of course, we will dive all into that, so much more. But if you want more talk about shrinking, join our Patreon. We've
Mhm.
got a link for you guys in the description. We are over there with the live chats
Yep.
every single Tuesday night. We'll talk shrinking, other TV shows. It's a great time. We hope you guys check it out, be a part of it. And thank you to everyone who
Thank
has
you.
joined so far.
Okay, so let's start with this
Okay.
this whole Sean thing. So he gets sort of this encouragement to talk to his dad. His dad's been reaching out,
Yeah.
should he, shouldn't he? He decides to. His dad is like, "Oh, your mom got these medals framed for you. Like, we still love you, still care for you. Like, it sucks that things went out this way, but we want to give you this gesture that, we really care about you and we're really proud of you and we really love you." And him getting these medals just brings him back to this time where he doesn't feel that proud about his time there and the things that he had to do with his job. And so this is what he has been not wanting to talk about. Jimmy has tried all different things to get him to open up, and he is just like, nah, it's not happening. I'm not here for it. Then we get this scene where Paul ends up coming in and he's able to get him to open up right away. And they have this throwaway line where it's like, "Oh, he's better than you." And Jimmy being like, "Yeah, yeah, he is better than me." And okay, yeah, he's better than him. But for me, with everything that Jimmy's gone through and everything that Sean has gone through, how close that they have become, he's living with him, he's helping him, like, I really wanted to see that breakthrough with Sean be with Jimmy. And I wanted to see that breakthrough with Sean for Jimmy as well as for Sean. So I kind of felt a bit robbed of that.
I think it's a situation where if they were going to go this route, they probably should have built it up a little bit more.
I didn't need the super shrink to come in and
No,
just fix it all kind of
like
thing.
they've
Like, no.
they've had this line where Paul basically said to Jimmy, "Well, you've made it harder on yourself. You've blurred the lines. Sean's not going to be as willing to open up to you because you're not acting just like a therapist with him
I get
anymore."
it.
But at the same time, that doesn't mean that Paul, as a therapist, can come in and then just like boom right away because he hands him a can to drink and they just sit down that like it's all gonna come out at that point. I think they could have built this out a little bit longer and it
Yeah.
would have still been effective. Like the choices of it were not great. I feel like the what we actually got, this idea of I don't really want to talk that much about it because I don't feel good about what happened over there.
Mhm.
I think that is something the show did a really good job at because I think a lot of vets come back and it's just this sort of situation where one, nobody really understands what they went through.
No.
And like two, it's a question of, oh, you're a hero, have these medals. What does it mean to be a hero? Like, my grandfather was in the military
Mhm.
and he served and he did some things that some people would probably consider to be heroic, but like he never talked about it. He had nightmares about it like most of his life. Like it is not an easy thing for people to bounce back from, and that's one of the big reasons why I think a lot of vets just don't end up getting treatment at all, because it's
Yeah.
easier than having to revisit that situation. Like, if this helps Sean, that's great. It can help him move forward. But yeah, it would be nice to see a situation where it also helped Jimmy move forward and feel validated in his job.
Yeah, I just want to. I know we're still, fairly early on in the show in general. It's going to come back for a second season, but we're midway through this season, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like I want. I've seen Jimmy trying, and he is trying, and he's, said thank you to people he needs to. He's apologized to people he needs to. And in his job and what he's trying to do with Sean specifically, he has gone above and beyond what he
Yes.
needs to. He has him living in his house. And because they've built this kind of a trust, that's why I really wanted to see it get to a point that maybe by the end of the season, we see Sean opening up and it's to Jimmy. So maybe we're going to get to a place where Paul got him to open up a little bit, but like the real is going to come out by the end of the season, and it's going to come out between those two. I'm invested in
Yeah.
their relationship, and I think that they can help each other.
Yeah, I'm really invested in it too. And Jimmy is clearly so desperate to get a win that he is signing himself up for open houses so that he can see Grace, who has been just like completely avoiding him, and try to get to the bottom of what's going on there, because she was not exactly forthcoming with her leaving her husband. And
And that's fair. Jimmy crossed
yes,
the line. You can't be like, do this or else.
yeah,
That is not
no,
therapy. That is not right.
no,
You can't do that to people in life. You can't do that
yeah.
to people in therapy.
And it doesn't matter if you want the best for them. Like, sometimes people have to figure things out for themselves, even if you tell them time and time again, this is what you should do, this is how you should do it. It's like you can't force people into doing anything.
No, that's not how therapy works. It is supposed to help you get to that point that you decide that you want to do this. Telling somebody to do something ends up like this. It's like telling your teenage daughter, stop dating that guy with the pickup truck. He's a problem. He's going to be a problem. And then it turns out that they're going to get married because you just told her to not do it anymore. And
Yeah.
it's just in human nature anyways. If you tell somebody, stop touching that hot stove, you're going to burn yourself. You're going to burn yourself. Somebody's going to be like, and it's just, you got to
Yeah.
go through it, right? And be like, oh man, I really shouldn't have done that. I'm in the hospital now.
How do we feel about Liz's collecting of rocks and the amount of time in which the show has brought up that Liz collects rocks? Like, there's a part of me that's like, okay, it's
They're
a little,
bringing up the joke too much. It's not landing anymore.
yeah, it's like there's a part of me that's like, oh, this is interesting. Nobody on TV shows ever talks about collecting rocks, but it seems like here is Liz's character right now. She gets too involved in people's lives.
Does she?
That's what they've sort of established.
Yeah, they're trying to establish that, but I'm still in the camp of, does she?
She's caring.
She was the only person that was around when Alice needed somebody. She was the only functioning adult that did what she had to do.
Her husband is weird. Like,
He's so checked out on that relationship, and I mean, so is she.
yeah, like he's one of the most bizarre and interesting characters on this show, because he's barely in it. He's only in it for like a couple of episodes, and like sometimes he's just like throwing heat at Jimmy and acting like, oh, we have another child now, it's this guy.
Yeah, it actually makes me feel really uncomfortable and really sad every time the husband shows up, because that marriage just looks miserable and sad and empty.
Yeah,
And it makes me feel bad because Liz is kind of getting it from every angle, where it was like, now things are a bit better with Gabby,
Yep.
but she was getting it from Gabby, then she was getting it from Jimmy. Her husband is just absent. Her son comes home and is like, hey, I'm home. I'm going out. Bye. Which, he's a college guy. He's going to
Yeah.
do that. But it's just kind of like, I feel so bad for her.
yeah, and I think this show is all about watching people grow and watching people develop, and I think, there's still a chance for the two of them, but there has to be some sort of real movement and kind of figuring out what their own issues are. And it seems like with every episode, they kind of unpeel the layers on a couple of people. And for
Mhm.
this episode, really, it's Brian who
Oh, yeah, Brian. Wow.
everything goes his way except for the fact that, he has been so cut off and distant from his family, and like he has to kind of tell himself this to sort of deal with everything that's happened with him in his past. And it's sad,
Yeah.
and I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, he wants to propose to his man, and has said it a bunch of times and nobody believes him anymore, and
Yeah.
he's still even coming up against a wall where he's going to look at the ring that he's looked at a bunch of times, and the jeweler's like, is this the time?
Yeah.
No. And he finally admits to Gabby like sort of what the problem is. He's like, yeah, everything goes my way, everything turns up Brian because I don't take any risks,
Yeah.
and I won't, rock the boat at all. Everything is just has to stay the same,
Yeah.
and then nothing goes wrong, which is not how life works.
I
Like, you can try to keep things the same, but things will change on you whether you want it or not.
like I could see one of the reasons maybe why some people get frustrated with this show is just that I think every single character, you want to just look at them and be like, how are you not seeing this? Like, what's wrong with you? Like with Jimmy, how are you not seeing that you're not doing a good enough job with your daughter? Like, what's wrong with you? And with Brian, it's like, you know, your boyfriend clearly loves you. Like
Yes.
that look that you guys had early on in the episode, like he clearly wants to spend the rest of his life with you. Like this is not a concern. You are the only person who is really
Mhm.
worried about this idea of what if it goes wrong, what if it doesn't happen, like
Mhm.
all of these other things. You don't have that belief in yourself, despite the fact that everybody else believes in you.
And we finally got a little more clarity on why Paul doesn't want to tell his daughter about his Parkinson's. And
Yeah.
I wasn't really sure what it was because we've only met her like so briefly in the last episode where it was kind of like, she loves him and she wants him to be around, kind of, that she's got her own life going on, and
Yeah.
it felt a bit like maybe he didn't trust that she was going to step up or that she would want to step up. But it came out a little bit more in this episode that really he's worried that she's going to see him differently and that it won't be the same that it was. But at the same time, it's like it's not really that great of a situation as it is right now.
And it's a situation where she's not really seeing him because he's not letting down any walls for her to see him. It's like he is so prideful, and I think he cares so much about looking and presenting himself a certain way that he has made it so that nobody can actually see him at all. It's like nobody gets to be at his house. Alice does. She just has to sit
Yeah.
there and watch the Lakers. She didn't get to
Yeah.
do anything else. So it's just like, okay, great. You have created such a wonderful facade. So it's just like your entire legacy is here is Paul. Paul is a great therapist.
Mhm.
End. Like there's nothing else that's really there other than that, yeah, Gabby feels like Paul spends more time with Jimmy, and then when he's not spending time with Jimmy, he's like trying to use her as a replacement Jimmy, and she calls him out on it. But it's like, other than that dynamic, there's not really a whole lot else there. And he is an older gentleman. He is very set in his ways at this point in his life. And, can someone like him really change?
Yeah, I mean, he does make that call at the end of the episode to be like, hey, Meg, there's something I have to tell you. So, I mean, it cuts. I haven't seen the whole season. Matt has seen the whole season, but I can assume that he's told her. I mean, maybe not. We'll get into the next episode where he'll be like, ha, just joking. I decided not to. But I mean, is Meg going to step up? I think she probably will. I mean, of course, you feel a care and a responsibility to your parents. You want to help them. You don't
Yeah.
want anything to happen to them. But I mean, even though Gabby did call him out to be like, listen, you're only in here with me trying to like get some advice and stuff like that because you don't have Jimmy right now. I'm not here for it. Get out, sort of thing. But you could see that there was that moment where she was like, well, wait, maybe I could help, sort of thing. And it's because their relationship,
Yeah.
it's really building with her picking him up every morning and him going to her and being in the car and them driving together every morning. they are growing into something deeper than they were, which is why my tinfoil hat theory last
Mhm.
episode, and still this episode, is maybe Gabby will end up becoming his POA, that they will end up throughout the rest of this season and maybe more next season as well, that Gabby will become more and more involved in his health and well-being. I mean, we saw it at the beginning of the show too, where she was carrying around her blue water bottle and put like a miniature version of it on Paul's desk. I
Yeah.
mean, that's caring for his health. Water's really good for you. Get lots of it in you. I'm gonna help you as well, sort of thing. Oh, you've decided you don't want to drive anymore? Cool. Meet me here every morning. We'll drive together.
Yeah, she
She's
obviously cares.
already stepping into that role.
Yeah, and I think it's a natural sort of continuation that she would want to be more involved. I mean, Paul has to be okay with it, but I think at the end of the day, if he starts to open up more, I think he's going to realize further that all of these people, whether it is Gabby, whether it is his daughter, they do want to help him. And I know it's
Yep.
difficult with this daughter because he hasn't exactly been model father of the year for the entirety of, her life. We don't know the full story there, but
And they are on opposite ends of the country, which, something I relate to. My father's up in Canada,
yeah,
I'm down in California. I haven't seen him in a long time, but they're still texting
yeah, and
and phone
there's
and
always
Zoom.
there's so
He
many
tried.
opportunities. Yes.
I love you, Dad.
It says like, Paul, you can do this too. I mean, you talked with her on the phone in this episode. If you keep that up, maybe things will go in a positive direction.
Yes, they just have to keep it up. And I think now that he's opened up about this to Meg, or at least that's what I'm assuming. Yeah, they cut off. They could come back and be like, haha, next episode. But I don't think so. That, now this relationship can start to develop in a different way. I hope.
I hope so. Everybody, I think, on this show is moving eventually in a more positive direction. And I think the thing is just happiness doesn't go in a straight line. It's going to be kind of like for a lot of these people moving into the coming episodes, and that's good. We want drama, we want conflict.
Yeah, I'm hoping that things are going to get a little more stable for Sean too, because I do not want to see. I'm with Alice. I do not want
Yeah,
to see him hanging off a water tower, being like, I'm just like, oh no.
yeah,
And I mean, hopefully that opens things up to Alice too, to be like, this person's not for me, because I don't want to see that relationship, because it seems like she's still underage
yeah,
and he is not.
yeah.
He's at least 21, because they mentioned that in this
Yeah,
episode, that he was 21 at the time that he was doing service. So I mean, he could be older
yeah,
than that
yeah.
now.
She's got to get out of this. I will also say, I've never once in my life had any temptation to climb a water tower. I'm just throwing that out there. Like, I'm not saying I'm
Is
terrified.
that true?
I'm not terrified of heights, but it's also like I'm not going to like actively seek them out. I'm not going to be like, what sounds like a great idea right now? Climbing up on top of this thing. It's like I can be in an airplane. I can be at the top of a building or something like that and look down and be okay, but I know somebody built that, and I know that it was built for me to be up there. A water tower, I do not believe that was built for me to be up there being like, "Woo!" No, no.
No, I'm not here for anything that could kill me. I don't understand that.
No.
Like, but that's just me. I know lots of people like to jump out of planes and do all kinds of things that are like, I might die doing this. I'm just like, I like living.
Well, what a crazy concept that is.
Yeah.
No, I really enjoy this show. We are now a big chunk of the way through the season.
Yeah,
We're
we
gonna
are.
see where it goes from here. But hang out with us, stay on this ride, join our Patreon. Our link is in that description below. Chat with Shrinking with us every Tuesday night. And thank you, of course,
Thank
to our
you.
patrons for your support. We'll see you here next time.